Hey everyone, welcome to another session of Conversations with Courageous Cancer Warriors. And today we have this amazing guest that I am so excited to introduce you to. So Paul Quinton is a spiritual and psychic healer that has this new modality. It's called the alignment modality that we're going to talk to you about today. That is really something that stopped me in my tracks when I actually went on his beautiful website to take a look at it. So Paul, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Laurie. It's lovely to be on. Wonderful, thank you.
So you mentioned to me offline that you grew up in a spiritual and psychic family. So tell us a little bit how that led you to do what you're doing today.
Okay, yeah, well, well, sort of my usual sort of Tuesday night was that we'd have a seance or a sitting. So we would assist sort of stuck souls on the astral plane. So that was, my family of psychics and healers are really a lot of them. So this was very much part of the development work that we used to do. And we also used to go to the spiritualist church. I don't know if anyone's been to a spiritualist church, a little bit different, where you'd have a reader up the front and then obviously people that passed over, the ancestors would come through and people get messages. So it's very much about sort of touching base with the unseen, or, you know, the invisible world, as we call it now. So that's sort of how I got into it. And I sort of established myself. And I really didn't at that time know what I was going to be doing. It was going to become a job. But it taught me to sort of face what we normally fear deep down, which is sort of the unknown. And obviously it brought up a lot of fear. So I managed to work through some fear when I was a kid, which was great because then it's gave me the healthy foundation to go into this work as an adult, really, and just have that sort of esoteric side to life, which was fantastic. And being able to do sort of hands-on healing has helped me through my whole life. And of course, then, you know, as I came into this full-time, probably 23 years ago now, it's been great to work with my clients and be able to provide them with that sort of holistic approach to healing. And also giving them an opportunity to where they don't have to go down the mainstream medical route, because a lot of my clients don't want to take the pharmaceutical drugs. They want to look more at the root cause, not just the physical side. So this work really, you know, has established itself and has assisted me with my work as well. So yeah, it's been a fantastic journey so far.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Now tell us a little bit about when a client comes to you, you know, walk us through what a session would be like. Okay,
so basically I get a little bit of a history, just sort of the main points they want to work on. Often, you know, obviously, I talk to their soul when I'm working. So I get very, very clear communication. I will talk to their emotions, because emotions have their own consciousness, and you can actually have a conversation with the emotion. And it will say why I've been there, where it's come from, you know, how many lifetimes ago, or if it's come through the genetic line, or if it comes through the ancestral line. And of course, getting that fundamental sort of baseline structure to their soul contract, why they're here and what their job is to work out in this life. So we sort of take all that apart. And of course, the healing is very, very dynamic. It's very fast, and the unconscious energies, they move very quickly. So people would come in, say, with, you know, maybe some childhood issues, or there's got some abandonment or abuse issues, or they just can't connect to themselves, get very lost. There's a lot of human beings in despair and anxiety at the moment. So I teach them about misinformation, how it's been divided in their cellular network. How to connect with their DNA, which is their higher self, really. And the actual DNA now is actually waiting for human beings to connect with it and instruct it to what they want to do. So, and getting people out of their heads and into their hearts, teaching them the feminine energy about surrender, because the planet consciousness is changing now. So we're not moving on that fire energy, that masculine fire wheel, mental energy anymore. So we're bringing that into balance with the feminine. And obviously taking a lot of that struggle and fear out of their main part of their life, really, so that they can start to feel their natural state of being. So it's really about transforming conditioning to unconditioning, and removing misinformation, and giving them a way to empower themselves so they don't have to rely on other people as well. So it's really a holistic approach. And then obviously that gives them the tools then to deal with things that come up in life as well.
Wow, that's amazing. And you know, for someone who's gone through some trauma, and I always talk about that when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, for me, the emotional, how do I want to word this? The emotional baggage that I was carrying really didn't show up for me at least 2 years, because I kept stuffing it. And you're so busy going through the motions of treatments and getting, you know, trying to do everything that you need to do in order to heal yourself. We often forget the emotional component. And that's what I hear from you. You know, the work that you do would be so beneficial for people to handle what they're currently dealing with. But we also then think about, okay, how did I get diagnosed? How am I the one with cancer, right? We think of stress and we think of all this other things that factor into it. But I can hear how, like you're saying, you know, your past lives, your genetic, you know, components that you were talking about, how that can also, it might be a cause or something that they can discover for themselves as the root to why they are where they are now. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, absolutely. Because firstly, I don't know if you've heard of Bruce Lipton, where he works as a cell biologist. He's sort of brought epigenetics through. So we work with we don't have to play into that hereditary model. However, what Spirit been very clear with me is that we have to clear our emotional body and also clear the ancestral line for us to transform ourselves. So they don't want us to be spiritual because we're already spiritual, we're already multidimensional, so there's nowhere to ascend. They actually want us to become human and align with the soul body, so we're receiving in the moment instead of this linear expectation timeline, because that's actually what kills us as well. Because when we don't meet those expectations, it creates a lot of stress and anxiety. And there's been a lot of proof around how that affects the cells and of course triggers illness, disease, and the rest of it. So I think fundamentally, when someone has a disease and an illness, it's because it's been let down. The physical body is actually nothing wrong with the physical body. It's the emotions or the belief systems that have let it down. And this is where we get a little bit confused. And it's actually about being inquisitive and putting my hand up and saying, why do I have this? And not going down like, oh no, I have to go into survival mode now. Yeah. Because that's frequency changes the cellular information as well. So Spirit very clear, intention and imagination are the keys into finding your own story and why it's there. But the genetic stuff really is environmental. So if you around negative people, a lot of negative self-talk, then of course that's going to further enhance any condition that you have. So I mean, it's if we have weak spots in the body too, then obviously emotion can manifest there, and that can be an issue. An example with my family, on my other side of my family, a lot of them had heart disease. Now the heart wasn't a genetic issue; it was an ancestral issue, because what was happening is they were so judgmental and shut down that feeling center that the ancestral energy continues through the incarnations. So what was happening is that closed down heart chakra was manifesting heart disease. And of course, the mainstream was looking at it as a hereditary genetic, but it wasn't. It's not actually that, because obviously it's been proven that it doesn't work that way. This was actually the shutting down of the heart chakra and not getting into the feelings, denying their feeling body. And of course, that was what was manifesting. It had been going on for generations. So it's good to have that holistic look at, when you work with energy, you can see through, you see beyond the veil, should I say, a little bit more, and realize we're non-physical beings having a physical experience. And that's what we also need to remember as well. So energy is the key at the end of the day. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm such a believer, I am also a Reiki person, right? And I believe in the power of energy. I believe that's what we are made of. And when people talk to me about it and they're kind of like, well, I don't really understand. I'm like, do you ever get that feeling when you walk into a room and you're not supposed to be there? I'm like, that's kind of, I'm like, that's a telltale sign of energy work. So yes. I would love to hear from you another example and of a patient or a client that has come to you, and their journey with you, and what they received from their time with you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose let's put it this way: people that are ready transform very quickly. Now, I get so many different types of people coming. Some that just need to work on a certain level of their consciousness. Then they have a pause, they have a break, and maybe they don't want to do all that in one life. But the main thing that we see, and especially now in the last 2 years since my frequency's changed, and I'm doing a lot of different work now. I'm working directly with certain energies, and it's a lot faster. And it's also to do with consciousness on the planet. So I'm seeing now, and I'd like to share sort of my recent stories, although everyone's had different transformations, absolutely. The main thing is that people can transform literally overnight. Sometimes they can have synchronicity just fall out of them, and it just sort of just incrementally just opens up. And we had one lady, she's just done the workshop, and she's a school teacher. And as soon as she'd done the workshop and she had the activations, and we've done some group sort of healing and stuff, basically her soul said, right, now you're doing this. And within 3 weeks, she'd opened up an holistic center, and it's got all these therapists coming. And she didn't have a clue what she was doing. She said to me last week, she said, I don't even know how I've even got here. And it's almost like what happens is you take a back seat and the soul energy comes forward, and it just says, right, we're doing this. And it gives you the most abundant life possible. And it takes that human struggle and stress. And she just couldn't believe all the red tape that was normally there to set up a business just wasn't there. And that's yeah. And I've had many stories like that, and just people just transforming, or they go, right, they've been in a horrible marriage for 20 years and they have a healing, and literally the next day they're leaving. They're saying, that's it, I'm done. And where they had all that fear that was stopping them, it just goes because they were ready. Now, don't get me wrong, some people you have to work with for a while because of the ego and the consciousness, and everyone has conditions, everyone has trauma. They want to let it go slowly, but the energy creates a very, very safe space, a cocoon. It brings out the trauma, but it offers a very safe way of dealing with it. And we actually don't work with belief systems anymore. We work with just the feeling, because what happens in a lot of the old sort of modalities will change belief systems. And what will happen is the emotional energy that was created when the belief system was created stays within the cells or in the body. And then those belief systems can come back maybe 20 years later, but the energy stays there and it sort of oscillates unconsciously. So that's why we work directly with the emotion now, and also the intelligence of emotions have their own consciousness. So once you identify it with gratitude, and gratitude is the key, obviously, then obviously the vibration of those emotions wants to leave your body. And it's the same as fear. It doesn't want to be with you anymore. It wants to leave. So it's a wonderful way of working. And it's also the ancient information coming back in a very simple way, the way we used to work, thousands of years ago.
I just love all of this. I absolutely love it. We are a firm believer of gratitude here. And one of the things that, is coming up for me right now is a lot of us who have gone through the cancer journey, our biggest fear is the fear of reoccurrence. And so when you talk about gratitude, that's what we're grateful for, another day of life. Can you speak to that? Like maybe a different thought, or, something that one can do when they're having one of those episodes where they're just extremely fearful, of reoccurrence. And how would you advise them?
Okay. And this is directly from my work. This is the simple way of doing it. It's very dynamic. It's amazing how quickly it happens. And it's the difference between sitting there with fear all day or getting rid of it within 5-10 minutes. Understand firstly that fear is the belief system in fear that's the problem. That's what's been seeded in our DNA. So it's nothing to fear, because it's actually part of our duality. So firstly, we have to understand that it's part of our experience. And when we can get over that, then it sort of helps us understand it a little bit more. However, for your question, when fear comes up, the best way to deal with it, or any emotion, despair, anxiety, it doesn't matter, is to obviously close your eyes. Now, create in your imagination a color or shape. Create like this illusion of distance. So you put it in your imagination, like, 100 meters away, whatever. And then you give it love and gratitude. And firstly, you have to say, hello, fear. How are you? Thank you. That changes the vibratory rate straight away. Because of the DNA coding, if we go into the fear and start letting it consume us, then that's when it obviously takes over. If we hold and breathe into it, and it's simple breathing, we give it a color, we say, hello, fear, thank you. And you just have almost like a mantra, thank you, I love you. Thank you, I love you. Because the gratitude comes from the fact that if you didn't feel it, you couldn't transform it. So actually, when fear comes up, instead of going and panicking, actually see it as a gift. You see it as an opportunity to actually transform it. And there's no greater time to do it than in the moment when it comes up. And this is what Einstein was talking about. He said, look, I would never have got any of my discoveries through logical thinking. Imagination is the doorway into the unconscious. So he had to imagine that he was successful in whatever he's doing. And then that's actually what created it. So again, if you imagine it and you create that distance, because all transformation needs is space to do it in. So when you create that illusion in your mind, so you just, that separation, that gives divine current or consciousness space to come into your auric field or your energy field and start moving, transforming the emotion. And it works. It's 100% works. And it's the difference, like I said, between letting it consume you all day to be able to be empowered and go, I can deal this. I can feel this. I can do this myself. And also we need to understand that fear is wanting to leave you. It doesn't want to be attached to you. It's not the enemy, not how we've been taught. Because obviously a lot of, push your fears down, suppress your fear, don't go into it, religious programming, just, the way we're taught in society as well, and that's very, very damaging to ourselves, to our consciousness, and especially to the inner child, because the inner child is the one that gets squashed. And it's the one that is always hiding. So when we have alignment with our inner child, we can then align with our soul. And that way it gives us the space to deal with our emotions much easier. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, you had mentioned that you do have a workshop. Yes. And then you also, so tell us a little bit about your workshop.
Okay, so the alignment modality, so I just got it patented now. It's insured in 45 countries. So it will be going worldwide. Obviously, Corona, the COVID thing stopped things. So I'm starting to sort of launch it now. It's in the infancy. So it's basically a 4-module modality. Fourth is the practitioner level. The first one is really about getting rid of the basal energies that human beings carry, which is self-betrayal, inadequacy, denial, separation, abuse, and abandonment. So we work a lot with those energies. We clear them out. We start with the ancestral healing. We do some activations like Reiki. These are sort of powerful temple activations. So they create they're sort of like a depth charger. They go into the chakras and they open up the energy bodies. So you can actually start to feel your multidimensionality. And then you start to merge with your own guides and energy. So we create that space. Advanced numerology is added as well. So it's a healing modality in itself. So you can go through, you get all these manuals, you can say exactly why you've been with that person, why that keeps happening in your life. So the numbers teach you everything. It's not like the mainstream stuff out there at the moment. So basically that's the foundation of module 1. And there's a lot of esoteric teaching and how to start working with your own intuition and developing your intuition and psychic ability. We start at, just start at the basics. And there's a few other bits and pieces in there. Module 2 is about going into the shadow self. It's about clearing a lot of the control mechanisms we've had planted in us, from our own belief systems or DNA. We work a lot with the brain, the hypothalamus. Again, we go deeper into the ancestral. We work more on the psychic development a bit more in the second one. And we start to remove a lot of the like heavy metal imprint, vaccine imprints, all the stuff that the toxins that are in our system, and remove the coding from the DNA. So it's really about clearing the physical body so you can have more of an energetic life. And then the third one is really starting to get into the esoteric side of life. So this is where we will do more healing. There's a lot more deeper esoteric information, but also it's a chance to connect in with the unseen world. So we're creating a safe space so that you can start talking and communicating directly with your soul and other guides and as consciousness, basically. and learning how to manifest in the moment, how to create the most abundant life possible by just surrendering. So we treat that surrender process. So we take all that we need to go out and fight to get what we want. So we reverse all that polarity in the body. So there's a lot of work done around the cells, the DNA, and the structure of our body. And we teach a lot of the planet element medicine as well, and how the planets are affecting us. So we get all the information on that. And I also give out tinctures, essences, to trigger aspects of your subconscious to start bringing up all the emotions. So you get that before the workshops. So yeah, there's a lot to it.
There's a lot to it. That's amazing. Yeah. And also you mentioned that you provide one-on-one sessions for people.
Yes. So I just do one-on-one. I do have a 10-week package, which is sort of a deep dive healing package. That's mentoring and coaching involved as well. They also get the element medicine in that too, to start triggering the emotional body. And that's more tailored to someone that really wants to go deep into themselves and resolve sort of deep held emotional issues or traumas. And also just to get self-empowered and get into alignment with themselves and start living a more abundant lifestyle, from every aspect, not just financial, but health, happiness, being able to sort of then to learn how to magnetically draw the right people to them as well. So we create that space for that. So that's the one-on-one, or we just do the normal sort of hour healings and coaching.
I love it. And I love who you are for the world. Like, we need you. So I want to ask you, what are you grateful for today?
Well, I'm grateful to be here and speaking. Absolutely.
Besides that.
What am I grateful for today? Well, every day I'm grateful, to be honest, I'm grateful for the simplicity in my life now. I'm grateful for the fact that I'm self-employed. I can work my own hours, but I'm really grateful. My best gratitude I've ever had is doing this work and being able to be a channel for this work, because I've written 4 or 5 books now. We're going to go publish soon, and just the information that I receive it's very humbling. I'm just grateful to be in this space. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we are so grateful to have you and for you to spend this time with us. Now, how can people find you?
Well, come onto my website. So it's www.alignmentmodality.com. All the information's under there. All the work that I can work with them individually. All the workshop stuff is under courses. It's got links to my podcast and videos, and all my information's there, and they can just go through the website. It's probably the best way to get them. And all my contact details are on there as well. Oh,
perfect. Now tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Okay, so the podcast, again, is channeled messages. I do sort of in the moment sort of current event stuff, but also where, obviously we're observing how humanity's changing at the moment. So obviously COVID was triggering a lot of the deep held grief that we've carried as a human collective consciousness. There's a lot of despair and fear coming up now. So we're doing a lot of talks around that. There's information coming through at the moment. We're getting people to understand the masculine and feminine energies and how to balance that in the body. And just a lot of information that's relevant for those weeks. I normally do every couple of weeks, so just to give it a gap. And then I just talk on whatever comes up. And then some people send me messages, can you do a talk on this? And I do my live Facebook group, is my main body of putting information out. So yeah, that's
I cannot wait to hear your upcoming podcast. So as always, thank you. I just really want to say thank you. Like I said, for who you are, for what you're up to in this world, for being that positive force for people. People need you. And we are truly grateful and feel very blessed that you were with us here today.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's very kind. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.